Years ago, there was a man that lived down a dirt road just like this one. He lived there all alone, just kept to himself, and that was fine by him. So he didn't like people very much, and people in general didn't like having him around very much either. He said later on that it seemed like from the time he was born, it just felt wrong somehow. Nothing he'd ever seen in life had changed his mind about that. Every couple of weeks he would walk out to a little general store out on the county road, get the few things that he needed and cash in empty bottles that he found on the side of the road. One day as he was walking out there in the ditch looking for bottles, he came across this yellow piece of paper stuck in the weeds. Now that man had never learned to read or write, but for some reason he picked up that piece of paper. Didn't even look at it really, just folded it up, put it in his pocket and kept on walking. Now when he got out to the general store, did his shopping, got his things in silence as usual, and he was just about to leave. Had his hand on the door, and something made him stop and turn around. And he went back into the store owner, pulled out his yellow piece of paper, said, "What's this all about anyway?" Now the store owner, he took that piece of paper, and he took a deep breath, and he said, "It says that Jesus saves. It says they're having a tent meeting down by the village tonight. And it says all are welcome." And that was the longest conversation that they had ever had. But the store owner, he took another deep breath and he said, "You know, I'm going to that meeting tonight, and I'd be glad if you came along with me. You can see for yourself what it's all about." And they never could agree who was more surprised when he said yes. You know, something happened that night in the back row of that ragged old tent in that farmer's field on the edge of that village in the middle of nowhere. Now that man, as he sat there, started to feel things that he'd never felt before in his life. In the crowd of people, he felt lonely. And he felt ashamed that he'd wasted his life. He felt angry and sad about things that he couldn't even remember. And then he felt hope stirring inside of him, listening to what the preacher was preaching. He felt some kind of relief coming over him. Most of all, he felt surprised, but there were tears on his face as he walked to the front of that tent and gave his life to Jesus. Now, in a really good story, now that man would have become a pillar of his community, probably an elder in the church, maybe even a famous evangelist traveling around telling his story. But none of that happened. Now he did become friends with the store owner, and he did walk out to that little country church. But that was about as sociable as he could get. But what really did happen was for the rest of his life, he walked this earth a free man, loving the Lord, and knowing that the Lord loved him right back. You see, miracles do happen. You know, when John the Baptist was in prison, waiting to die, he sent some of his disciples to visit with Jesus, to question him, ask him, "Are you the real deal, or should we wait for someone else?" Now Jesus just could have said, "Yes, I am the one," but he didn't. And what he said was, "You go and tell John what you've seen and what you've heard. Tell them the blind can see. Tell them the lame can walk. Tell them the sick are healed and the dead are risen. And you make sure that you tell John that the good news is preached to the poor. Yeah, good news is preached to the poor. It seems to me that ever since then we've been arguing about how that good news should be preached. Do we hire a special class of people to preach it? Do we build huge buildings? Do we make people earn the right to hear that word? Do we speak in a language that no one understands anymore? Do we have music? No music? It all gets so confusing and complicated. And there's always somebody in a better position and better qualified to spread that good news than I am. But still, this good news, this message of Jesus Christ, it's so simple, and it's so pure, and it's so real, that if we just put it out there, the wind itself will carry it to wherever God intends for it to be. So here's some good news, if you'll accept it from a simple man. It's kind of a dirt road gospel, if you will. Jesus saves. Time is right here, right now. And all are welcome. I'm going that way myself. You're welcome to walk along with me. God is on the move. Good news is in the breeze. Even in a place like this, where nothing ever happens.
Watching the news on the CNN, all about how bad things have been. Floods and fires, tornadoes and wars, taking our lives like never before. And somebody's giving their point of view, and nobody talking about the good news. And somebody's sitting in a cabin all alone. He's got no computer, radio, or phone. He sits by himself, hurts from sin. Yellow piece of paper comes flying in the wind. Now he can't read, but he's set free. Jesus died for him, you and me. Nobody sees that joy on his face. Yellow piece of paper at his place. Single mother cuddles that baby all alone. She's got no computer, radio, or phone. Sits by herself, hurts from sin. Yellow piece of paper goes flying in the wind. Now she can read and she's set free. Jesus died for her, you and me. And nobody sees that joy on her face. Yellow piece of paper at her place. Bars on his cell keep him all alone. He's got no computer, radio, or phone. Sits by himself and hurts from sin. Yellow piece of paper goes flying in the wind. Now he's filled with joy, he's set free. Jesus died for him, you and me, and nobody sees that joy on his face. Yellow piece of paper at his place. Watching the news on the CNN, all about how bad things have been. Floods and fires, tornadoes and wars, take